This story revolves around underdog triumph and poetic justice. At its heart, it's about a young black woman who has been doubted, disrespected, and dismissed by her peers, teachers, and society at large. But through resilience, quiet intelligence, and a perfectly timed reveal, she turns the tables in the most unexpected way. It's a tale of empowerment, revenge without cruelty, and the sweet satisfaction of proving them all wrong. The central theme is redemption through excellence. It explores the harsh realities of racial and gender-based prejudice, how people are often boxed into assumptions before they even open their mouths. It asks, what happens when the very person you underestimate is quietly building an empire behind closed doors? This isn't just about revenge. It's about reclaiming dignity and rewriting a narrative that was never written in her favor to begin with. The story also touches upon resilience, hidden identity, and delayed gratification. Our protagonist doesn't retaliate with anger. She moves in silence, gathering strength and preparing her moment until it's too late for her doubters to backpedal. This is a modern drama with strong elements of social commentary, emotional suspense, and character-driven storytelling. It borders on psychological drama, particularly in how it explores the internal effects of being repeatedly dismissed and looked down upon. There's also a hint of mystery, especially around her true talents and motives being hidden until the right time. The dominant emotional tone of the story is righteous vindication. However, it's layered with moments of frustration, sadness, isolation, and ultimately power. The reader should feel angry on her behalf, hopeful for her future, and utterly thrilled when her big moment arrives. The phrase "they underestimated the black girl" is a direct call-out to systemic racism, classism, and sexism, all wrapped into one. It immediately triggers curiosity. What did they underestimate? How badly did they misjudge her? And the second half, "but she had the last laugh," teases a twist, a reversal, and a payoff. It assures the reader that justice is coming. The story becomes not just about the pain of being underestimated, but about the art of rising above it with style, grace, and a touch of vengeance. The laughter was loud. Too loud. It wasn't the kind of laughter that came from a joke. It was cruel, sharp, and meant to cut. The sound bounced off the concrete hallways of Eastwood High like a slap, echoing all the way to her locker. "Nice shoes, crackhead Barbie," someone muttered as they passed her. Another voice joined in. "Oh wait. She can't hear you. She's too busy reading her nerd books and pretending she's special." Amara James didn't flinch. She kept her eyes on the lock, spinning the combination, 18, 34, 22. Click. She opened the locker and exhaled, letting the metal door shield her face. Not because she was afraid, but because she had mastered the art of hiding the fire that burned behind her eyes. Today was just another day. Another insult. Another sideways glance. Another group of rich, entitled kids who thought her silence meant weakness. But silence wasn't weakness. Silence was power, stored like a storm behind closed clouds. And Amara? She was a hurricane waiting for the right season. Behind her, two girls strolled by. Rachel, the student body president, and her blonde shadow, Tiffany. Rachel's voice was loud, on purpose. "She's still here? I figured someone like her would have dropped out by now. You know, some people just aren't cut out for this place." Tiffany snorted. "She doesn't even talk to anyone. Probably too embarrassed to admit she's on scholarship." Amara heard every word. She always did. But she didn't respond. She slipped a notebook into her backpack, the same one filled with calculations so advanced, her physics teacher once accused her of plagiarism. She was 17, black, brilliant, and invisible. At least, that's how they liked it. That's how they needed it. If people like her could succeed in silence, what would that say about the world they so carefully built to exclude her? The first bell rang, and students scattered. Amara closed her locker and walked calmly, chin high, eyes steady. Her footsteps didn't rush. She moved like someone who had already won, but was patient enough to let the world catch up. At the school auditorium, a banner hung. Eastwood Talent Gala, this Friday. One winner, one scholarship, one future. Underneath it, the usual suspects whispered, laughed, boasted about what they'd perform. Rachel was doing an original monologue, of course. Marcus would play the piano. Someone else was singing Adele. No one asked Amara. No one ever asked Amara. They assumed she wouldn't participate, that she had nothing to offer. that she'd sit in the crowd and clap politely while they took turns polishing each other's egos. That was their first mistake, and it wouldn't be their last. Because the girl they mocked in the hallways? She had been preparing for that stage her entire life, and they were about to find out exactly who she was. Amara James was the kind of girl who remembered everything, not just facts and formulas, though she'd memorized more equations than her math teacher had ever taught, but faces, words, glances. She carried memories like stones in her pocket. Every insult, every time someone looked through her like she wasn't even there, every time her hand was the last one raised and the first one ignored. 17 years old, senior, Eastwood High's only black girl in the honors STEM track. A full academic scholarship student in a school built for legacy names and gated community children. While others arrived in Audis and Teslas, Amara caught the 6:45 city bus that made her get up before sunrise. She didn't complain. She calculated. Not just numbers, but people, patterns, power. She had learned early on that in places like Eastwood, you couldn't afford to show weakness. Not when your skin was too dark, your voice too careful, and your intelligence too threatening. Her mother, Deborah, had raised her with tough love. You're not going to get a second chance, she'd say. They'll expect you to prove yourself twice as hard to get half as far. So what do? Amara had memorized the answer. We be undeniable. And so she was. By the time she was 12, Amara was competing in regional math tournaments, coding apps in her bedroom, and winning local science fairs with projects that left judges stunned. But none of that mattered to the kids at Eastwood. To them, she was just the black girl with the thrift store shoes and the librarian energy. But Amara didn't dress for them. She dressed for battle, simple jeans, buttoned shirts, sneakers that had seen too many summers. Her hair braided neatly every Sunday by her mother, her notebooks covered in scribbles that looked like chaos to anyone else, but held the secrets of the universe to her. Her sanctuary was her room, a small corner of a 2-bedroom apartment she shared with her mother and little brother, Khalil. There, surrounded by books, wires, and tools, Amara built things, machines, code, dreams. And when the outside world got too loud, she escaped into the music her father once loved. Nina Simone, Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill. Women who sang from the soul, who refused to be silenced, who bled truth into microphones. She saw herself in them, not because she wanted to be a singer, but because she, too, had a voice. She just hadn't used it yet. At school, she was quiet, not because she was shy, but because she was strategic. She watched everyone. Rachel, with her perfect teeth and politician charm. Marcus, who flirted with anything in a skirt but couldn't write his own piano piece if his life depended on it. Tiffany, the shadow who giggled too loudly and echoed whatever Rachel said. They didn't scare her. They amused her. She saw through them. The desperate need to be liked. The performance behind their smiles. The way they feared anyone who didn't play their game. Amara played a different game. And that's why, when she saw the talent gala poster go up, something inside her shifted. This was her chance. Not just to perform, but to shock them. To take the stage they'd already imagined her sitting beneath and own it. To show the truth in front of everyone who doubted her. That the quiet girl they ignored was more powerful than any of them could fathom. She knew the stakes. The talent gala winner received a $50,000 scholarship and automatic admission into the Elite Renaissance Fellowship, a program that could put her straight into MIT, Stanford, or Caltech. No one thought she'd even try. But Amara was done waiting to be seen. She was going to make sure they heard her. Loud and clear. The auditorium was nearly empty when Amara stepped inside. The echoes of rehearsals still lingered in the air, snippets of bad acoustic covers, dramatic monologues, and violin solos that sounded more like a dying cat than music. She stood at the back for a moment, watching Rachel Hamilton on stage under the spotlight, rehearsing her glittering performance for the upcoming talent gala. Rachel's blonde curls were pinned just right, her voice syrupy smooth as she sang some overdone Broadway piece that was guaranteed to impress the clueless board of judges. Amara's hands curled into fists inside her hoodie pocket. She wasn't intimidated. She was calculating. She already knew what she was going to do. No one had ever used the gala stage the way she would. Not with code. Not with raw, unfiltered truth wrapped in data, rhythm, and rebellion. She wasn't just entering a competition. She was launching a quiet revolution. "Can I help you?" a voice asked, slicing through her thoughts. Amara turned. It was Mr. Kensington, drama teacher, talent gala coordinator, and a man who always managed to look both bored and superior at the same time. "I'm here to register for the gala," she said. His brow arched. "You?" "Yes," she said calmly. He looked her over like she'd just told him she wanted to audition for Broadway with a bag of potato chips. "We've had most of the acts finalized already." "The deadline is tomorrow," Amara replied. "And I have something prepared." Mr. Kensington hesitated, lips pursed, as if deciding whether to humor her or send her away. Finally, he sighed. "Fine. You'll get 5 minutes. What's your act?" Amara hesitated. "It's a multimedia presentation. Original spoken word poetry, backed by real-time AI visuals I programmed myself." Mr. Kensington blinked. "You mean you're going to talk? On stage? And show?" "I built something to support the piece, motion graphics, interactive projection. It's designed to respond to my voice in real time." He gave a polite but dismissive chuckle. "Interesting. Well, do bring your projector, or whatever it is, on rehearsal day. Just don't expect a standing ovation." "I'm not," she said, her tone flat. "I expect silence." And reflection. Rachel, who had just finished her dramatic high note, came prancing off stage and caught the tail end of the conversation. Her lip curled. "You're entering the gala?" she asked, mock surprise lacing her voice. Amara nodded once. "I am." Rachel chuckled and looped her arm through Tiffany's. "Oh, this is going to be so good. Can't wait to see what thrift store TED Talk you're bringing." Tiffany snorted like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. But Amara didn't flinch. Let them laugh. She had seen storms coming long before they ever felt the wind. That night, back in her room, she pulled the blackout curtains tight and sat in front of her laptop. The glowing light from her triple monitor setup lit up her face like a sci-fi goddess. Lines of code danced across the screen: Python, JavaScript, Unity plugins. She wasn't building a project. She was building a moment. The poem had been in her head for months, pieces of it murmuring to her in the silence between insults, the quiet moments on the bus, the rage-soaked tears in the bathroom after being overlooked again. It wasn't just words. It was her story, cut and wired into a digital tapestry of resistance. She'd call it Black Code, a programmed resistance. And it wasn't going to be pretty. It was going to burn. 3 nights before the gala, she stayed up until 4 a.m. debugging a projection delay that threw off the voice sync on the line. "You see my color, but never my code. But I'm both. And I'm coming online." At school, rumors started circulating. "Amara's entering the gala? Isn't she into robots or something? Is she going to build a cyborg to recite poetry?" Rachel fanned the flames. "Let her try. People like her always want attention, until they get it." But on the day of the pre-show lineup announcement, something happened. Amara's name was missing from the official roster. She stared at the list printed outside the auditorium. 20 names. All familiar. All expected. Except hers. Panic rippled through her body. For a moment, she thought maybe she'd been too late submitting. Maybe there was some kind of clerical error. But then she saw the smug look on Rachel's face across the hall, and everything clicked. Amara stormed into Mr. Kensington's office. "You left my name off the list," she said, voice tight. He didn't even look up from his desk. "We had to make adjustments. Too many acts. You understand." "No," she said louder. "I submitted before the deadline. You gave me confirmation." "Well," he said with a shrug, "we decided your act was more academic than performative. It didn't really fit the gala's aesthetic." Amara froze. "You mean it wasn't entertaining enough?" "I mean it wasn't aligned with what the judges typically respond to. Because I'm not singing a Broadway solo in a sequin dress." He looked up then, his eyes hard. "Watch your tone, Miss James." But Amara was past caution now. Something in her snapped. "I built something that could change how people think. Something real. Something powerful. And you buried it because it doesn't look right." "You were invited to participate," he said coldly. "We're not obligated to give you a stage." Amara stared at him, her blood boiling. "Then I'll build my own." The next morning, Amara didn't show up to school. She didn't care what rumors would start swirling. Let them guess. Instead, she sat alone in her room, the blinds pulled down, the monitors glowing like portals to another world, a world she was building from the ground up. If they wouldn't give her a stage, she would create her own. Not just any stage. A digital revolution. She called it the invisible stage. Her idea was simple, but radical. She would launch her performance online, streaming it live during the exact time slot of the talent gala. No rehearsed claps, no filtered judges, just the raw, viral truth. A performance the world couldn't ignore. By noon, she had bought a domain, www.invisiblestage.live. By evening, she had designed a landing page. Bold white text against a black screen pulsed. You see my color, but never my code. Until now. Countdown timer. 4 days, 7 hours, 33 minutes until broadcast. The next step, spreading the word. She didn't have followers. Not the way Rachel or the glitterati of the student body did. But she had forums. Online Discord servers for young coders, poetry collectives, Afrofuturist subreddits, digital artists, and revolutionaries who thought TikTok was a distraction from the real work. She posted teasers. Not her face. Just shadows. Lines of poetry flashed against glitchy animation. They tried to silence the system, but the system rewrote itself. You don't need a mic when your voice is code. The posts started to get traction. She built hype with anonymity. People were curious. Who is this girl? What is this project? Back at school, Rachel and her crew laughed behind their glittered phones. She's having a breakdown, Tiffany said, showing Amara's new website. What even is this? Looks like a haunted hacker Tumblr. Rachel smirked. Desperate. It's sad, really. But they didn't know what Amara was really doing. While they rehearsed costume changes and vocal warm-ups, Amara was refining the most ambitious fusion of tech and truth she had ever imagined. She coded audio-reactive visualizations that responded in real time to tone and volume. Each word of her poem igniting bursts of color and symbolic imagery, a chain breaking when she said free, a glowing circuit when she said alive, storm clouds rolling in on rage. She looped in background audio she produced herself. Ambient sounds layered with whispers of spoken code, fragments of injustice echoing like ghosts inside the beat. And she timed it all, perfectly, to her voice. But she knew it needed more than just code. It needed fire. So she rewrote her poem, again and again, until every word cut like a blade and bled like a wound. You build fences around my brilliance, and call it discipline. You flatten my soul into rubrics and curves. But I was never meant to fit your formulas. I am error and evolution. I am the bug you didn't see coming. While you sing your rehearsed perfection, I rise in debugged silence and crash your system with truth. 2 days before the gala, she tested the final version. Her friend Malik, a quiet gamer who lived 2 blocks away, helped her wire a better mic setup. He didn't say much, but when he heard the rehearsal, he sat back in silence for a full minute, eyes wide. Damn, he whispered. You're gonna destroy them. She gave a small smile. Not destroy, just expose. The day of the talent gala arrived. The school auditorium glowed with spotlights and red carpet wannabe vibes. Rachel Hamilton stood in a silver gown, sequins gleaming under the stage lights. Her parents beamed from the front row. The principal leaned forward with interest. Even the mayor had shown up, invited by a donor on the board. Backstage, Rachel was surrounded by praise. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. She was the queen. The show was hers. But 15 minutes before the first act began, something strange started happening. Students' phones buzzed with notifications. First one, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. A link. From unknown contacts. From Discord. From Instagram. From anonymous tags on Twitter and Threads. www.invisiblestage.live. People started clicking, and what they saw stunned them. Amara, lit by one ring light. A black backdrop, glowing red eyes and projection behind her. Her voice filled the space like thunder channeled through glass. Her poem had begun. Live. Online. The visuals exploded with each verse. Chains snapped. Binary codes spilled like blood. A girl on fire stood behind her. A digital rendering of Amara herself. Defiant, rising, glowing with light and rage. The comments began flooding in. Fire, who is this? Brain, this is the most powerful thing I've seen all year. Collision, Rachel who? Raising N's medium dark skin tone, finally. Someone told the truth. Exploding head, she made code into poetry. How? Rachel's followers started turning their phones away from the stage and toward the screen. Even inside the auditorium. Heads lowered. Screens lit up. Mr. Kensington frowned. Put your phones away, he snapped. But no one listened. Backstage, Rachel's face went pale. She peeked at someone's phone and saw the stream. And she saw the comments. And she saw herself mentioned, mocked, memed, dismissed. Amara hadn't even named her. And yet she'd become the villain of the story without a word. The irony? Rachel was about to perform her polished number to an audience that had already left her, mentally and emotionally. Because outside the auditorium, in bedrooms, in buses, in quiet corners of the internet, thousands were watching Amara, sharing her words, reposting her visuals, quoting her lines, making duets and remixes. She had gone viral. By the time Rachel stepped on stage, half the room wasn't even watching. She sang beautifully, flawlessly, but it was too late. Her songs sounded like the past. Amara's sounded like the future. That night, the invisible stage trended on Twitter, TikTok, and Discord forums across 3 continents. Coding blogs picked up the performance. Poets reacted to her spoken word. Activists called it the birth of a digital resistance movement. Amara's inbox exploded with messages. You made me feel seen. I didn't know tech could do that. This changed me. Teach me. Thank you. But her favorite message? A simple DM from a middle school black girl in Detroit. I didn't know girls like us could do this. Now I want to learn to code. Amara stared at that message for a long time. And then she smiled. Because the truth was out now. She had written herself into the system. And the system had no idea how to contain her anymore. 2 days after the talent gala, Amara walked through the school halls not as a shadow, but as a presence. No longer invisible. Eyes followed her. Not with mockery. Not with pity. With recognition. The kind that came not from popularity, but from impact. She didn't wear anything fancy. Just a black hoodie, jeans, and those same wire-rimmed glasses. But there was something different in her stride. Not arrogance. Not revenge. Power. The kind of power that comes from knowing you told the truth and let the whole world hear it. Rachel didn't come to school that Monday. Rumor had it. Her parents were furious. Not because she lost, but because someone else had the spotlight. Someone no one had expected. Someone no one had tried to control. In the principal's office, Mr. Kensington called Amara in. He looked stiff behind his desk, fingers laced too tightly. We were surprised by your online performance, he said slowly. Amara raised an eyebrow. You mean the one I had to do because I was cut from your show without explanation? He cleared his throat. That wasn't personal. You have to understand, we try to keep things polished. And I'm not, she asked. No, that's not what I meant. Your work is provocative, but also impactful. You've received attention. Quite a lot. The mayor's office reached out. Did they? She said coolly. Would you consider representing the school at the citywide student showcase next month? He asked. It was the same spot Rachel had been promised before. Amara stared at him. Then she smiled, politely. Almost cold. Thank you, she said. But I've got my own stage now. And with that, she walked out. Because the truth was, she didn't need anyone's approval anymore. Her website had racked up over 200,000 views. A tech publication had reached out for an interview. A nonprofit for girls in STEM invited her to speak at a youth summit. And she was just getting started. That weekend, Amara sat with Malik at a local cafe. They were sketching out version 2.0 of the Invisible Stage. This time, it wouldn't just be her. It would be open to others. A platform for unseen voices. Coders. Poets. Artists. Anyone the system had ignored. You really shook them up, Malik said, sipping his coffee. Good, Amara replied. Maybe now they'll start listening. He looked at her for a long second. So what's next? She leaned back, a soft smirk playing on her lips. Now, she said. Now I teach every other invisible kid how to crash the system too. And she did. Week after week, she hosted workshops online, teaching other black girls how to code their truth, how to fuse their stories with technology, how to break into spaces that told them they didn't belong, and redesign them entirely. The movement grew. It became more than her, more than code, more than poetry. It became a signal in the darkness, a warning to every institution that erased brilliance just because it didn't fit their mold. Because now, every time they tried to ignore someone like Amara, another stage lit up, another girl went live, another poem dropped like a hammer, and the system? It kept breaking, gloriously, until, finally, there were too many voices to silence, too much light to dim, and too many screens glowing with one defiant message. You can't erase what was never meant to stay silent.